I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Apocalypse Now wasn't just a war movie, it was a descent into madness that nearly consumed everyone who touched it. Behind the scenes, Francis Ford Coppola's masterpiece erupted into a production nightmare that lasted 238 days, destroyed careers, and left its director contemplating suicide. Sets were destroyed by weather, filming was interrupted by an actual civil war, and Martin Sheen had a near-fatal heart attack on set. Real human corpses were bought from a man who turned out to be a grave robber. Marlon Brando and Dennis Hopper clashed so violently that they refused to be on the set at the same time. The production spiraled so far out of control that it became its own heart of darkness. Today, we're revealing 20 weird facts about Apocalypse Now that expose the brutal reality behind one of cinema's greatest achievements. And stick around for the bonus fact, it involves a secret that Coppola kept hidden for decades. Let's journey into the horror. Fact number 1. The production was originally George Lucas's baby. Francis Ford Coppola's acclaimed adaptation of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness was supposed to be directed by George Lucas. It wasn't Francis Ford Coppola's vision from the beginning. Lucas had developed the project as a low-budget Vietnam documentary-style film, planning to shoot it in 16mm with a small crew in South Vietnam during the actual war. The young director wanted to capture the conflict's raw immediacy, but American withdrawal from Vietnam killed those plans. When Lucas moved on to his space opera called Star Wars, he handed the project to his mentor Coppola. What started as a guerrilla-style indie film transformed into a $31 million epic that nearly bankrupted everyone involved. Lucas dodged the bullet that would define and nearly destroy Coppola's career. Fact number 2. Martin Sheen's drunken breakdown was absolutely real. In one moment, he punches a mirror, causing his hand to bleed profusely. Nothing is fake about the scene. Martin Sheen really hit the mirror, and that's his real blood. The actor was also drunk off his mind when filming, so he had little control over his actions. The opening hotel room scene captures Captain Willard's psychological collapse through method acting taken to dangerous extremes. Sheen, battling his own demons with alcohol, channeled his personal struggle into the character. When he smashed the mirror with his bare fist, the blood streaming down his hand belonged to the actor, not the character. Coppola kept rolling as Sheen's breakdown intensified, crying and smearing his real blood across his face. The scene's raw emotional power comes from genuine anguish. Sheen later admitted he barely remembered filming it, lost in an alcoholic haze that merged his identity with Willard's madness. Fact number 3. Coppola nearly killed himself making this movie. The director's mental state deteriorated as production spiraled beyond control. Coppola, already $16 million over budget and facing studio pressure, began having suicidal thoughts in the Philippine jungle. He threatened to kill himself multiple times, once telling his wife Eleanor that he was going to shoot himself. The pressure of salvaging the production while managing volatile actors and impossible conditions pushed cinema's golden boy to the brink. In taped conversations later released in the documentary Hearts of Darkness, Coppola confesses his psychological breakdown. "I had access to too much money, too much equipment, and little by little I went insane. The man who gave us The Godfather nearly became another casualty of his own ambitious vision." Fact number 4. They actually bought real human corpses. Real human corpses were bought from a man who turned out to be a grave robber. The police questioned the film crew, holding their passports, and soldiers took the bodies away. Instead, extras were used to pose as corpses in the film. The production's quest for authenticity led them into genuinely dark territory. Needing convincing corpses for Kurtz's compound, the Filipino location manager arranged to purchase actual dead bodies from a local supplier. The crew discovered too late that their corpse dealer was literally a grave robber, stealing bodies from cemeteries to sell to the film production. When Philippine authorities raided the set and confiscated the stolen corpses, cast and crew found themselves detained for questioning, while officials sorted out the macabre situation. The incident epitomized how the production's boundary-pushing approach crossed into genuinely disturbing territory, forcing them to rely on living actors playing dead instead. Fact number 5. A massive typhoon destroyed everything. In May 1976, 2 months after filming began, a typhoon hit the Philippines, which led to an unscheduled 3-month hiatus. Typhoon Olga struck with devastating force, obliterating expensive sets that had taken months to construct. The elaborate Kurtz compound, meticulously built to reflect Conrad's vision of colonial decay, was reduced to twisted metal and scattered debris. Helicopters borrowed from the Philippine military were damaged beyond repair. The production shut down completely, bleeding money while cast and crew waited in limbo. Coppola faced a terrible choice: abandon the project and lose millions, or rebuild everything from scratch and risk total financial ruin. The typhoon wasn't just a natural disaster, it was nature itself rejecting the madness of their undertaking. When filming eventually resumed, the rebuilt sets carried an ominous weight, as if they'd been cursed by the storm. Fact number 6. Martin Sheen had a heart attack at 36. The physical demands of the role, combined with Sheen's heavy drinking and the oppressive Philippine climate, triggered a massive heart attack that nearly killed the actor. At just 36 years old, Sheen collapsed on set, clutching his chest as crew members rushed to help. The nearest adequate medical facility was hours away, and for a terrifying period, it seemed like the lead actor might die in the jungle. Sheen's brother Joe Estevez secretly flew to the Philippines to serve as a body double for shots that didn't show Willard's face. The production concealed the severity of Sheen's condition from the press and studio executives, fearing it would shut down the film permanently. When Sheen finally returned to work weeks later, he was a changed man, physically weakened, but somehow more connected to Willard's journey into darkness. Fact number 7. Dennis Hopper was completely insane on cocaine. Dennis Hopper arrived in the Philippines in the grip of a severe cocaine addiction that made him virtually impossible to work with. His character, the manic photojournalist, required no acting. Hopper simply channeled his drug-fueled paranoia and hyperactivity into the role. Between takes, he'd disappear into the jungle to snort cocaine, returning more unhinged and unpredictable than before. His rambling stream-of-consciousness dialogue was largely improvised, born from his chemically altered mental state. Coppola realized he could harness Hopper's madness, letting the camera roll while the actor spiraled through drug-induced monologues. The photojournalist's frantic energy and disjointed philosophy perfectly captured the war's psychological toll, even though it came from Hopper's genuine mental instability rather than crafted performance. Fact number 8. Marlon Brando showed up massively overweight and unprepared. The legendary actor arrived in the Philippines having gained significant weight and admitting he hadn't read the script or Conrad's source material. Brando, paid $3.5 million for just a few weeks of work, seemed determined to sabotage the production through sheer indifference. He'd spend hours in his trailer, refusing to emerge, while cast and crew waited in the sweltering heat. When he finally appeared, Brando would ramble philosophical nonsense, forcing Coppola to find ways to make his improvised gibberish seem profound. The character of Kurtz was supposed to be a Green Beret colonel, but Brando's physical condition made that impossible. Coppola had to completely reconceive the role, keeping Brando largely in shadows and using his bulk to suggest corruption rather than military precision. The actor's unprofessionalism nearly destroyed the film's climax. Fact number 9. They used real Philippine military equipment. The spectacular helicopter attack sequence was filmed using actual Philippine military helicopters and personnel. The production struck a deal with Ferdinand Marcos's government, borrowing military equipment in exchange for positive portrayal of American involvement in Vietnam. However, this arrangement created dangerous complications when the helicopters were suddenly called away to fight actual communist insurgents in the Philippine countryside. Filming would halt mid-scene as military pilots received real combat orders, leaving expensive camera equipment abandoned while the aircraft rushed off to genuine warfare. The crew never knew if the helicopters would return or if their pilots would survive actual combat. This bizarre intersection of fictional and real violence perfectly captured the movie's themes about the impossibility of distinguishing between performance and reality in war. Fact number 10. Coppola shot over 1 million feet of film. Coppola shot over 1 million feet of film. A fully edited version of a typical 2-hour movie is roughly 11,000 feet of film. The sheer volume of footage became its own nightmare, creating an editing process that lasted nearly 2 years. Coppola shot everything: multiple takes, improvised scenes, behind-the-scenes footage, and endless experiments that went nowhere. The director lost control of his own material, drowning in options while struggling to find the movie buried within millions of feet of celluloid. Editor Walter Murch spent months just cataloging footage before beginning the actual cutting process. The excess reflected Coppola's perfectionist madness and the production's complete lack of restraint. Go ahead and like and subscribe because we're about to dive into the darkest secrets that nearly destroyed this legendary film, including the real reason two Hollywood legends refused to work together. Fact number 11. Brando and Hopper's feud nearly caused violence. Marlon Brando and Dennis Hopper did not get along, leading Brando to refuse to be on the set at the same time as Hopper. Their conflict erupted over Hopper's drug-fueled behavior and disrespectful attitude toward the veteran actor. Hopper, flying high on cocaine, would mock Brando's weight and unprepared approach to the role, while Brando dismissed Hopper as an unprofessional addict. The tension escalated when Hopper allegedly made crude comments about Brando's personal life, nearly prompting the legendary actor to physically attack his younger colleague. Coppola was forced to completely restructure the filming schedule, shooting their scenes separately and using creative editing to suggest they shared screen time. The hostility between these two method actors reflected the broader chaos consuming the production, where personal animosities threatened to derail artistic vision. Fact number 12. The smell of napalm scene was almost cut. The film's most iconic line nearly didn't make it into the final cut. Robert Duvall's Colonel Kilgore originally had different dialogue for the beach assault sequence, but Duvall and Coppola collaborated to create the character's surreal obsession with napalm's smell. The line emerged from discussions about how military personnel might psychologically cope with the horrors they'd witnessed and committed. Duvall wanted to show how war could transform normal sensory experiences into nostalgic triggers for violence. During editing, some studio executives thought the line was too strange and suggested removing it entirely. Coppola fought to keep the scene, recognizing it perfectly captured the war's absurd brutality. The line became cinema's most memorable encapsulation of military madness, turning a chemical weapon's odor into a twisted comfort. Fact number 13. They were investigated for using real bodies. Beyond the grave robber incident, the production faced ongoing scrutiny from Philippine authorities who suspected the crew was exploiting local funeral customs and possibly desecrating corpses for cinematic effect. Government officials conducted multiple investigations, examining prop bodies and questioning crew members about their procurement methods. The paranoia was justified. The production's obsessive pursuit of authenticity had led them into genuinely questionable territory. Even after switching to living actors as corpses, rumors persisted that some scenes still featured actual dead bodies obtained through dubious channels. The investigations created additional stress for an already troubled production, with crew members fearing arrest while trying to complete their work. The controversy highlighted how Apocalypse Now's quest for realism had crossed moral boundaries that made everyone involved complicit in disturbing practices. Fact number 14. The water buffalo slaughter was real and controversial. A water buffalo was slaughtered. Such scenes filmed in the Philippines were not policed or monitored. The American Humane Association gave the film an unacceptable rating. The climactic ritual sacrifice scene featured the actual killing of a water buffalo, filmed during a genuine religious ceremony. Coppola claimed the animal was going to be slaughtered anyway as part of local tribal custom, but animal rights organizations condemned the production for exploiting and filming the killing for entertainment purposes. The American Humane Association, which monitors animal welfare in Hollywood productions, had no jurisdiction in the Philippines, leaving the crew free to film practices that would never be permitted in American productions. The controversy followed the film for decades, with critics arguing that including real animal death crossed ethical boundaries. The scene's disturbing power comes partly from audiences' subconscious awareness that they're witnessing genuine killing, not special effects. Fact number 15. The production lasted 238 days instead of 16 weeks. What began as a planned 16-week shoot stretched into nearly 8 months of jungle hell. Every aspect of the production expanded beyond recognition. Locations changed, scripts were rewritten daily, and weather delays became permanent obstacles. The cast and crew were essentially stranded in the Philippines, unable to leave until Coppola decided the film was complete. Many crew members suffered psychological breakdowns from the isolation and pressure. Families back home wondered if their loved ones would ever return from what seemed like an actual military deployment. The extended timeline drained bank accounts, destroyed marriages, and left everyone involved questioning their sanity. Some crew members compared the experience to being prisoners of war, trapped in a conflict they couldn't escape or understand. The production became a real-life version of Conrad's journey into the unknown. Fact number 16. Coppola financed it by mortgaging everything he owned. The director put his personal fortune, including his homes and vineyard, up as collateral to fund the increasingly expensive production. As costs spiraled beyond the original budget, Coppola became personally liable for millions in overruns. He was gambling everything he'd earned from the Godfather films on this single project, transforming the movie from an artistic venture into a financial suicide mission. The pressure of potential bankruptcy added another layer of madness to the already chaotic production. Coppola's family watched their security disappear into the Philippine jungle while their patriarch chased an impossible vision. The director's willingness to risk total financial ruin reflected his complete obsession with the project. He was literally betting his life's work on a movie that seemed determined to destroy everyone associated with it. Fact 17. The ending was improvised and changed multiple times. Coppola shot multiple endings and spent months in post-production deciding how to conclude Willard's journey. The original script called for a massive military assault on Kurtz's compound, complete with explosions and helicopter gunships. But budget constraints and narrative uncertainty led to a more psychological conclusion. The final confrontation between Willard and Kurtz was largely improvised, with both actors exploring the philosophical themes in real time. Coppola even considered ending the film with Willard assuming Kurtz's role, becoming the new Heart of Darkness. Test audiences were confused by several different versions, leading to additional reshoots and re-editing. The ambiguous ending that survived reflects the production's own journey into uncertainty, where traditional narrative resolution became impossible. Fact number 18. The famous opening shot was an accident. Coppola shot an unprecedented 1.5 million feet of film for the movie and came upon the opening shot by accident during the post-production process. The iconic image of helicopters silhouetted against napalm explosions was discovered during editing, not planned during filming. Coppola and editor Walter Murch were experimenting with different footage combinations when they stumbled upon the perfect opening sequence. The shot's dreamlike quality, enhanced by the door's "The End," emerged from post-production experimentation rather than directorial vision. This accidental discovery perfectly captured the film's themes of chaos and uncertainty, where meaning emerged from madness rather than careful planning. The opening became one of cinema's most recognizable sequences, proving that sometimes the most powerful artistic moments arise from uncontrolled circumstances rather than deliberate intention. Fact number 19. Several crew members never recovered mentally. The psychological toll of the production left permanent scars on numerous cast and crew members. Several technicians suffered complete nervous breakdowns and required extended psychiatric treatment after returning home. The combination of tropical diseases, extreme heat, isolation, and constant stress created conditions resembling actual combat trauma. Some crew members struggled with what would now be recognized as PTSD, experiencing flashbacks and anxiety attacks triggered by memories of the production. The filmmaking process had become indistinguishable from the war it was depicting, creating genuine casualties among the artistic personnel. Family members reported that their loved ones returned from the Philippines as changed people, carrying psychological wounds that never fully healed. The production's human cost extended far beyond financial overruns or schedule delays. Fact number 20. It was almost never released. After years of production and editing, Coppola faced the possibility that his epic would never reach theaters. Studio executives were horrified by the film's length, content, and unconventional structure. The movie had no clear heroes, offered no resolution, and presented Vietnam as an incomprehensible nightmare rather than a traditional war story. In April 1979, Coppola screened a work in progress for 900 people. It was not well received. Test audiences walked out confused and disturbed, leaving executives convinced the film was commercially unviable. Coppola fought for artistic control while facing pressure to completely re-edit or abandon the project entirely. The director's reputation and financial survival depended on releasing a movie that many industry professionals considered unwatchable. Only his persistence and eventual critical acclaim at Cannes saved Apocalypse Now from becoming the most expensive unreleased film in Hollywood history. Bonus fact, it was added by Coppola because the title and copyright legally had to appear somewhere in the movie according to union regulations. The simple title card that appears during the film wasn't part of Coppola's original artistic vision. It was a legal requirement he tried desperately to avoid. The director wanted viewers to discover the title organically through context, rather than being told explicitly what they were watching. He experimented with incorporating the words "Apocalypse Now" into dialogue or background elements, but union regulations demanded clear title placement for copyright protection. Coppola finally relented, adding the stark title card but placing it strategically to minimize disruption to his narrative flow. This seemingly minor detail represents the constant battle between artistic vision and commercial legal requirements that plagued the entire production. The journey into Apocalypse Now's heart of darkness reveals a production that became its own war, claiming casualties and destroying lives while creating cinematic immortality. Francis Ford Coppola didn't just adapt Conrad's novel, he lived it, transforming a film set into a genuine journey into madness. The movie's enduring power comes not just from its artistic achievements, but from the real suffering and chaos that went into every frame. It remains a testament to the dangerous intersection between art and obsession, where the pursuit of truth can consume everyone brave enough to seek it. What other legendary productions do you want us to explore? Like this video if you enjoyed diving into the darkness, subscribe for more behind-the-scenes revelations. And remember, sometimes the smell of napalm is nothing compared to the smell of a film production spiraling completely out of control.